Let's proceed with the next part, player actions. And let's going to create our player sprite, and let's start moving that player sprite. Let's start by adding, preloading the asset, and adding it at just after the C. So you got your player, add it at 400, 550. So it's, in terms of the Y coordinate, it's below the green, below the bullet and below the green enemy, but it's in line with it. And the fly animation is the same, it's just this, the propellers moving. And it also has enabled physics, arcade physics. Let's see if it works. Bam. Oh, easier. Okay. So first off, with keyboard movement, can use the create cursor keys to have our convenience, for our convenience. Let's add that. If you want to know, again, you can always click create cursor keys. It creates and returns keys for up, down, left, and right. Very, very convenient for our game. So again, this doesn't have a line number, but if you could see, just search where this is, and the only place where that is here. So yeah, add it there. Alright, so we created our cursors, added it to our object scope, the member of our object. We can now call it, but before that, let's just set the speed. So our player object, we can set whatever we want to set it. This is not a special variable, we just set an arbitrary variable, member variable speed to our player. And yes. And now yeah, we did this so that later if you want to have a speed up power up, you can simply changing the player.speed would increase the speed all in all. Alright, so let's set the velocity. So this one is special. Let's ignore this first. So we have our cursor, and it's a special object that has the up, down, left, and right. So up, down, left, and right, and we can check if they are pressed. So the key is down, so it's pressed, and if it's pressed, we're going to increase the velocity to that direction. So the left button is down, we change the velocity of the body to move left. So 300 pixels per second to the left or to the right, depending on the situation. And this one is our very crude way of setting the drag. So if no buttons are pressed, the velocity stops. If there's anything pressed, there will be velocity because it will go through these if-else statements. As far as I know, yes, there are other ways to do this because there's the drag, acceleration, and the physics for the arcade physics. But for us, we're just going to ignore that for a moment. Ignore that for this tutorial and just do this very basic approach. Right. So yeah, now you got this. And if we try it, and you will realize that I'm using the whole screencast. Every button I press, there's going to be something here. That's so that you can see that if I do this, you'll realize that it's moving. What I'm pressing, moving. It doesn't show what buttons are pressed at the same time though, but you can figure out what happened. Only problem is it allows us to move our plane outside the screen. But there's an easy way to prevent that from happening, and it's only a few lines of code, which is actually one line of code. So we set the physics. Once you set the physics, you now have a body, and the body has a bunch of other stuff in it, and one of those is collide world bounds. So if the body hits the wall, the world, which is the entire game screen, if this is true, it will prevent it from moving from it. So it collides with the wall. Let's just add this. Man. So move that, and now we're hitting the wall. It's not going through the wall. So that's the keyboard commands. Let's now move on to our other command, which is the mouse movement. So instead of the keyboard, we have our is pointer down. We have a special. We've got our input object, and that input object has an active pointer, and we can check if it is pressed. So if it's pressed, it's down. We tell the physics engine to move the player object towards the pointer, and it's automatically going to calculate that for us. If we didn't let the physics engine do that, it's not that hard actually. You just have to use sine and cosine. But for us, we don't have to do that. Phaser already does that. Just copy paste this and put it in the update function. So if the update function, we got into the update function, and there is the pointer and it's down, it's going to move the plane or player towards the pointer, and based on its speed. Let's just see how that works. Yeah, it's working. It's working. Anyway, so yeah, but the problem with this one is it's not really that. Certain situations, yeah, it's not that precise. It will do this because it will try to move at a certain distance, but once that distance is covered, it's going to go past the pointer. So now you've got it zigzagging all over the pointer. To deal with that, we just need to add this one, distance to pointer. It reduces the precision involved, but then again, if you're in a mobile device, there's really no precision involved there unless you're going to use a stylus. So in this case, we let it stop moving if it's pretty close to the pointer. So to prevent this jittering thing, we tell it to stop moving if it's pretty close to the pointer. Just add that. So the pointer is down and it's far away from the pointer. Just add space here so it's not to confuse us. So yeah, it's no longer jittering because it stops at a certain location. Only moves when it's far away from the point. But it reduces the precision of the movement. So it's not really at the pointer. It doesn't stop at the pointer. But again, it will prevent that jittering thing from happening. Anyway, next part, firing bullets. We finished the movement. Let's try to fire bullets now. So first off, let's remove the bullet code because we are going to create bullets on the fly. Let's remove this. Let's replace it with an array. An empty array. And now, if the keyboard is down or the pointer is down, it will fire the bullets. So keyboard Z button is down, will fire the bullets. And our fire code, it's in this 82 line. Yay for macros. Anyway, so we got our fire. Now instead of creating the bullet at the create function at the start of the game, we now create the bullets. We now add the bullets. So create a new sprite, and the basis of that sprite is the sprite, that the image that we loaded before. Then we put it slightly above the player, not at the center of the player, because the gun of the plane wouldn't be at the bottom. At the center, it should be at least slightly off center. And we do the same for everything. Then we add it to our array. Then for collision, since we now have an array of bullets, instead of overlap for a bullet, this should be bullet, not bullets. Array of bullets, we go iterate over our current list of bullets, and if it hits, we call the enemy hit function. So replace this. I am switching between arrow keys and Vim keys, so it's kind of weird. Anyway, so that, yeah, so we do that, save that, and now when we refresh the page, if we press Z, we now have a laser. Or if we click anywhere, it's going to be a laser. This is weird. We don't want this style. We want lower fire rate, but at least we know the whole collision works, but we just need to slow it down. So let's create a next shot at that just tells the expected the earliest the next shot should be fired, and the shot delay would be how many milliseconds between each shot. Then this one. So instead of automatically firing, we're going to check the current time if it's already okay for the plane to fire the next shot, and every shot we set the next shot at variable. And let's make a space. So now yeah, next shot at would be set at 100 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds here after the current time. So if the fire is called before that, it won't fire. It's going to return. Let's just see if that works. So yeah, it's a bit stuttering again. It's the fault of the virtual machine, even though it's using Canvas. Let's try using WebGL. It's even slower. Alright. Now there's nothing we can do. It's just weird as it is. Because it's a virtual machine. Not much we can do about that. Let's just close other pages to free up some resources. Right, yeah. So that's that. That's how we fire, that's how we delay the firing, and before we end, this virtual machine is going to update in a bit anyway. So before we end this chapter, let's just display the how to play message. So apart from images and animations, we can also add text. So this is add text. Same, it also has coordinates, also has an anchor, but in this case it has style. So this style is similar to CSS style. Just set it to a monospace font, and we set the variable that would expire it to 10 seconds after now. This is milliseconds. Then at our update, at the end of the update, we call this function, call this bit of code to destroy the instructions after 10 seconds. So this is just a quick change. I'm going to restart this virtual machine so that that's probably why it slowed down earlier. Anyway, add the text, and finally update. So arrow keys to move, Z to fire, tapping or clicking does both move and fire. And after 10 seconds, it disappears. So that's the end of the first chapter. I'm going to have to restart this VM. and take a quick bio break. Next part, we are going to talk about object groups, because as you notice that this is a freaking memory leak. So there's no way to reclaim the bullets, it's all pushed into the array. We want to have a way to save memory, because you all know mobile devices and even the browser doesn't have a lot of resources available to us. Anyway, that's that.